You know, it's kind of crazy. Most of the shows I grew up watching are nearly 20 or almost 20 years old. Fairly Odd Parents, 20 years old. Danny Phantom, 20 years old. TMNT, almost there. You'll get there one day. It's really impressive that all these years later, people still remember these classic shows, and even if they try to reboot them or reimagine them in some way, people will still have fondness for the originals, because they held such a special place in everyone's hearts. So why doesn't House of Mouse have that? In theory, House of Mouse should have been the easiest one to get right. Not only does it have some of the most iconic cartoon characters of all time, but it's Disney. Disney is known for having huge success with their properties and making huge monetary gain off of them. So why didn't this work out? To catch everyone up to speed, House of Mouse was an early 2000s animated show that aired on ABC. Its basic plot revolved around Mickey Mouse, of course, and his friends like Donald, Goofy, and so on, who own and operate a cartoon club. That's right, a cartoon club in Toontown. Now that right there is a super creative setup. Having Mickey Mouse, the world's top cartoon entertainer, owning basically a nightclub is not just crazy, but really endearing. Because when you think of nightclubs, you usually think of drugs, alcohol, hard partying, but because this is a kid's show, they can't do any of that. They have to have certain limitations for what they can do and show. For being a kid's show, for being a Mickey Mouse show, they not only come up with some clever scenarios, but clever stories and characters that help make this show better than it has any right to be. Now, if that right there was the only driving point, I think people would at least be interested in what the show was about. But no, there was an even bigger draw, even more reason why people checked out the show, and that was the audience of the House of Mouse. Now you might just think an audience. What's so special about an audience? An audience is just there, they react to what's happening, it's just an audience. Well, this one was special because the audience of the House of Mouse was full of classic animated Disney characters. And by classic, I mean classic. From Ariel to Cinderella, Dumbo, Lumiere, even Winnie the Pooh were there. And that's not even all. We even had villains like Jafar, Ursula, even Hades, all hanging out and relaxing at the House of Mouse. Now that right there made this show different enough from a usual Mickey Mouse show. I don't think people would care as much if the audience was like regular animals or humans, because the nostalgic draw of the classic film characters made it unique enough that people would tune in to watch each week. Kind of like a sort of smaller Roger Rabbit type feel, if you catch my drift. Now you may think right there, that's a great setup. The show must have done exceedingly well in ratings. Well, unfortunately it didn't, because it was cursed with the dreaded 3-season Disney rule, where a Disney show, usually animated, typically lasts only 3 seasons and maybe has a movie or two before Disney puts it to the wayside, being forgotten altogether, with no further toy collabs, no mentions in the parks, not even a future DVD or Blu-ray release. Even to this day, it's not on Disney+. So today, I want to talk about this. I want to bring this show to light, and I want to show that this is a great program for people to watch. It's witty, it's smart, it's funny, it's one of the best Mickey Mouse related cartoons you will ever see, and it has no business being as good as it is. So we're going to be dividing up this video into 4 separate parts. So I'm going to be talking about the structure of the episodes, the animation quality, the characters, and finally my personal thoughts. Because I feel, coming from me, an avid Disney fan who grew up watching the show, can bring a very unique perspective to the legacy of House of Mouse, because now it's more of a cult following type thing. I grew up watching the show, so I think I have a unique perspective on the whole matter. So, without further ado, sit back, relax, and welcome to my House of Mouse series retrospective. So each episode centers around the crew at the House of Mouse, whether that be Mickey, Donald, Pluto, Minnie, or whoever a part of the crew who have some sort of problem or issue they have to resolve before the show is over. Whether that be, we have to find stolen cartoons, or we have to help this guest with their problem, or we need to find acts for the show. There is always something to figure out on the stage or backstage with the show, which really gives it a nice, plot to go along with it, because it's a nightclub. How you can go ahead and make these interesting stories, but they do find a way, and it's a really cool kind of concept. And in between, they play 1 or 2 full-length cartoons around the theme of the episode at hand, or just about a random character that's doing something important. These two elements here kind of act as an A and B story type narrative, even though the cartoons don't usually affect the main plot of what Mickey and the crew are doing. The only example would be, they watch a cartoon about, Donald Duck, or they watch a cartoon about a bear, then that bear is in the audience, so they watch something about a ghost, and the ghosts are in the audience. Usually that's as far as they go with the connections, but typically the cartoons don't usually affect, what's going on in the episode. And it does balance out nicely because, if something's happening in the plot and they say, oh, we need to go look for this thing, they cut to a cartoon, 7 minutes later they're back, oh, we found the thing. Some people might say it's lazy writing. I say it's a really cool, mix match, and it really does balance out. It's a really nice distraction to go from one to the other because I love cartoons. It's really fun. But speaking of the cartoons, of course, they're from the 1999 series Mickey Mouse Works. Now, Mickey Mouse Works was an attempt to revive the characters back in the late 90s. Didn't really work out. It got canceled only after one season. And House of Mouse is actually a sequel series, technically, because they get most of their shorts from that show. The shorts from Mickey Mouse Works are okay. Like, they're enjoyable, but not the best. Occasionally, they do go ahead and play golden classic shorts as well, and those are very fun to see. They don't play them often, but when they do, they're really fun to see, and personally, they're my favorites. I mean, these shorts are classic, the animation is gorgeous, and hearing those OG voice actors of, Walt Disney, Clarence Nash, and Pinto Colvig, it's just a sight to behold. I mean, you cannot love hearing these guys. Now, like I said, the Mickey Mouse Works shorts aren't bad. There are a few I do actually enjoy. A good example is Donald's Dynamite, one of the earlier shorts where Donald plays as a magician who tries to make a bomb disappear before it goes off in his face. Some shorts like that are very, very enjoyable. Some of them, like Hickory Dickory Mickey, go on a bit too longer than they need to. They're cartoons. They're not supposed to make too much sense. Like I said, some have stories, some don't. Some tie into the plot, some don't. So it's a really hit or miss bag, and it really depends on the episode of what's going on. The big thing. I know this is a big thing, but they just play it too nice. Ever since the 80s or 90s, Mickey Mouse has been a very nicey character. I get it. He's for kids. He's a big kid icon, but Disney is inherently for everyone. Disney is something for everyone. Now, it's not like Bugs Bunny, Bugs Bunny is a snickering, little buffoon. He's a wisecracker. He tries to outsmart his enemies. Mickey Mouse is this happy guy who just wants to be around people. And that's his character. Sure, that's fine. But, Mickey Mouse is supposed to be for everyone. He's supposed to be funny, smart. He's supposed to deal with issues head on. And honestly, just saying a kiddie Mickey Mouse for me is kind of a turn off, but I still watch the episodes with lots of enjoyment. I'm not gonna lie. I love seeing Donald and Goofy in there. Those are two of my favorites out there. Donald is my favorite cartoon character, so I love seeing him in there doing his usual shtick. But overall, Mickey Mouse's character is a bit watered down, but again, that's what you get. But really, overall, the episodes are funny, they're smart, they're well written, and they give you what you want to see. Mickey Mouse, only in a nightclub. At that point, that's really all you need. I want to take a quick sec to talk about how beautiful the animation of this show is. Of course, it's Disney, so we know it's going to be amazing, but the way that the characters move, the way they react, it's so crisp and so clean that it's nearly on par with the original shorts. And the way the colors match with the shadows and the angles, it's just animated very, very well. They take advantage of the entire space. And it's quite a shock that even though this is a TV show, it looks like they had a pretty big budget, because usually with Disney animated shows, the budgets can get pretty small, especially in the late 90s. They were minuscule and to try to go ahead and produce a show. Now, this was produced, in the early 2000s, so the budgets probably weren't super big, but they were still big enough because, of course, this is Mickey Mouse. You want to go ahead and give Mickey Mouse the proper treatment. But the way they managed to go ahead and mix everything together, let alone make the cinematic characters look as good as they did in their proper films, is really, really amazing. Just everything looks so good. Even to the cartoons, which granted I mentioned before aren't my favorites, they still are animated with great timing and speed and energy that could be on par with the OG cartoons from the Golden Age, and it's just very beautiful to look at. Now granted, some parts can be a bit slower and some might not be amazing. I mean, it's animation, you know, there will be some hiccups at some points, but for the most part, I'd say 95% of the time, the animation is really on point, and it really does work super well. And comparing to CG nowadays, it's still really good. Hand-drawn still does have a place in this world, and I wish that they would continue with hand-drawn as they did with CG, but I mean, hey, if you want some new hand-drawn Mickey cartoons, you have the Paul Rudish Mickey Mouse cartoons, which look fantastic. Here's a little plug for them right there if you haven't seen those. But overall, the House of Mouse animation is very good. The colors, the angles, the movement, it's all top-tier Disney. If you want to see some good animation, House of Mouse is the right show for you. So yeah, animation is just beautiful. Every good TV show needs a good cast of characters, and Disney is no exception to the rule, having some of the most popular and innovative cartoon characters of all time. And with House of Mouse, they did not escape on the characters from main to cameo. They have it all. Now, of course, being a Disney property, they of course had their main six, like Mickey, Minnie, Donald, Goofy, Daisy, and Pluto, serving the main house roles, like Mickey as the owner, Donald as the co-owner, Goofy as the chef, Daisy as the receptionist, and so on. But they did manage to fill in a few minor main Disney characters in there as well, to, you know, spice it up a little bit. So of course we had Pete as the club landlord who always tries to scout people out of their money, which, you know, Pete, landlord, pretty fitting choice. We have Chip and Dale who are just chilling there as, I guess, the house rodents. I don't know, chipmunks, rodents, possibly, it doesn't matter. We have Huey, Dewey, and Louie as a Backstreet Boys-esque type house band dance thing, which is weird because usually I don't know why they're there, but hey, they're cool. Clarabelle Cow, who's there as like a manager of some kind, and we have Horace Horsecollar, who is the tech advisor. Why Horace Horsecollar as a tech advisor? I don't know. They wanted to fit in Horace somehow, and he's here. And it's really fun to see one of the oldest Disney characters just hitting a VHS player with a mallet. I don't know. It works on some levels. Now that right there, if it was only those mainstay Disney characters, I think people would be mildly satisfied with the role. But again, the audience of the House of Mouse is where the real stars came from, because like I said in the intro, the entire audience is basically fully animated classic Disney characters, like Snow White, Cinderella, Hades, Winnie the Pooh, the Wicked Queen, Aladdin, so on and so forth. And like I said, they don't really play a big role in the story, but it's really cool to see their reactions to what's going on in between each cartoon. And just having that extra layer of nostalgia really did help the show be unique enough from the other nightclub type animated shows. I feel that more people would go ahead and watch House of Mouse than, let's say, Hercules or Aladdin or even The Mighty Ducks, if anyone remembers Mighty Ducks. It was different and unique enough to have all these characters together. I don't think to this day there hasn't been a bigger gathering of characters or Disney characters since. The only way you'd be able probably to see these characters would probably be at the parks. You know, the parks are their own separate thing compared to the actual animation division. So I do think it's pretty cool that they managed to slip in all these characters in there at one time. And what's great is that they did manage to keep the characters' unique personalities that we all know and love. Like Mickey is still cheerful, Donald is still agitated, Goofy's still clumsy. They still managed to keep their unique personalities. Even though they're a little bit more dumbed down to more kid levels, because this is inherently a kid's show, it's still fun to see all their characters interact. Even if they're interacting with, you know, other guests, even if they're interacting with other random people, it's still fun to see all the characters together and working off each other, because, you know, we've known these characters for over 90 years, so we know how they're going to react. So seeing them in a unique position like this is very fun to see. So overall, the characters are great. They do what they're supposed to do. They have their great personalities, and really, I couldn't ask for anything more for a Mickey Mouse show. It's great, it's awesome, and the characters really make the show what it is. Okay, for the last several minutes, I've gone on and on about the several aspects of the show, like animation to the characters. So maybe thinking, wow, he must really like this show. And big shocker, yeah, I do. I really do like this show. I think as a Mickey Mouse cartoon or Mickey Mouse show, it does very, very well because, you know, there are other Mickey Mouse shows out there like Mickey Mouse Clubhouse, there's the Paul Rudish Mickey Mouse shorts, and a whole other things to watch. Even the classic shorts are a really great alternative, but it really comes down to personal preference. For me personally, this was my first big Mickey Mouse show because, you know, when the show came out in 2001, I was still, you know, very young. I was still a toddler, and at that time, I was only watching small toddler-esque shows like, you know, Barney, Thomas the Tank Engine, Sesame Street even. So this show, when I was old enough to watch it, was my first big, you know, dive into Disney characters, because at the time, I think I knew who Mickey Mouse was, but that was mainly, you know, from toys, from TV ads, from clothes, stuff like that. Nothing really from his actual medium of animation. So when I finally watched the show, I found out who Mickey was as a person. I found out who Donald was, Goofy, Pluto, and it opened up this whole door of love for Disney, classic animation, and just the whole Walt Disney lineage of characters and stories. And that's why this show is really great. Is it perfect? No. I don't believe any one show is perfect. A lot of shows can have multiple flaws, but for House of Mouse specifically, I think the positives really outweigh the negatives. Sure, there are some problems, like the characters are a bit too nicey, be some random, stupid, weird plots, and the cartoons may not be the best, but overall, I think with the premise of a nightclub, it works very well. Most of the cartoons are alright and watchable, and seeing all the characters together that are not only the mainstay characters, but classic animated Disney characters, it's just a win-win situation for all sides. Now, nothing will beat the original shorts. I mean, they're classic, they're made in that era, and everyone loves them. But I think that this show does have a place for being a very unique type of Disney program, because people can be experienced in not only cartoons, the characters, but all different types of scenarios, and they'll be like, hey, that lion at the table there, what's his story? I want to know more about him. Or that hunchback, I want to know his story. Or any other slew of characters. It will introduce you and push you forward to watch more movies. And I'm not joking when I say that. When I saw Hunchback in the audience, or Quasimodo I should say, maybe want to go watch Hunchback. When I saw Jafar, I'm like, you know, he'd be cool. I might want to watch Aladdin. And eventually I did go around to see Aladdin. So, you know, this show is a really good stepping stool to bring people into these universes. And it's a really, really good show. It really is. Does it have flaws? Absolutely it does. All shows do. But like I said, the positives are equally greater than the negatives. It's a great show. It's comedic, it's smart, it's fantastic, and if you have not seen it, I hope that I've opened your eyes at least a little bit to go and check it out at some point. It's on YouTube. You can watch a good chunk of the episodes already on there, and it's a great experience. So all in all, House of Mouse is a great Disney show, and if you haven't seen it, do so, because it's one hell of a time.